Hello and welcome to another DaVinci Resolve grading tutorial. Today we're going to have a bit of fun and build a sort of dream forest look. I don't do these often, so let's get into it. Quite often you'll get footage which doesn't have the strongest lighting, so this is just shot with all natural light, absolutely no directional lighting on her face especially. It looks a bit crap when you get it in from the camera, so how do we mitigate some of these issues as well as building quite a stylized look? So to start off with, I'll go ahead into our Open Effects, get our color space transform, and set this from S-Log into Rec 709 working space. Okay, so we've got our basic transform down. Next, I'm going to add a contrast node and a bit of a saturation color node. I always like to separate my nodes just to give myself a bit of visual clarity. So I'll bump up the contrast a little bit, create myself a new node, and I'll bump up some of my saturation. Great. Now, when you are grading anything in a forest or near a forest, a very common request will be to start messing around with your hue versus hue, especially in the yellow-green sort of areas. So as you can see, when I do this, very drastic results. You can get purple leaves, you can create really magical sort of environments, but I quite like this hue of green. It's normally you see people going super teal, but I'm going to keep it sort of bright lime forest green. While I'm here in my hue versus hue and hue versus saturation curves, I do want to get rid of some of this blue magenta sort of fringing around the sky. I don't think it looks very attractive. This is purely personal. There's red, green, and blue here. You could really like this, but for now I'm just going to go ahead and desaturate some of my blues. Now, the biggest thing about this, and I mentioned this before, is there's not very much direct lighting on our subject's face. So I'm going to go ahead and create a circle vignette. Fantastic. I'm going to go ahead and whack up the contrast. Not by too much, maybe 1.3-ish, and I'm going to reduce this pivot. So again, I want to be getting those nice skin tones coming up. It's probably about 3.5 there. Looking at my waveforms, I'm going to go ahead and lift my gain. Don't want to be clipping anything, but just want to be brightening this up a little, and I could reduce the gamma just a touch. Okay, so you can see that this really helped the contrast. You can see when we zoom up here, there's some sort of colored noise here. It's not very attractive, especially on the skin tones. So what we are going to do is we're just going to go ahead and add a cheeky denoise. So we're going to add a temporal NR, make the motion estimated type better, and we're just going to go ahead and crank up the luma and chroma. I'm not sure how much you can see on YouTube compression, but if I disable that there, you can see that some of this chroma noise is now gone. Now our subject is looking a little bit brighter. We're going to go ahead and have some fun. So I'm going to show you a few Resolve effects that I really like and can add a really fantastic punch to your image. So if we go ahead to the Open Effects, and we're going to go to Radial Blur. Now for anyone who likes anamorphic looks, I just love the Radial Blur. So we'll go ahead and drop this in. And as you can see, on its full effect, it is looking very intense. Drag up the strength and make sure that my center is perfectly positioned. Then I'm going to go ahead and reduce this and bring it up slowly. So you have a look on the leaves here. I'm going to go ahead and just reduce it a little bit too far, bring it back, bring it back. You want this to be fairly subtle, but still quite noticeable. It's a fine line. So I'm going to leave it around 3. And if we Control D that, you can see that sort of alludes to that circular blur without being too in your face. We're going to go ahead and add a few more effects. So I'm going to go ahead, hit Alt-S to add a new node, jump across, and we're going to search for a glow. You can never go wrong with a glow. Okay, well you can go wrong with a glow, that's too much. So we're going to go ahead, because we sort of removed a bit of saturation from the sky, I do want to add a little bit of color back in here, so I might sort of go, and again, you could love the purple look, go for gold, but I think I'm going to go slightly more orangey. Now that looks gross, I know, but we're going to go ahead, yank up the threshold, adjust the spread to what we like, probably about there. We're going to reduce the threshold and just add a touch, maybe about 8.72. So again, these are all subtle adjustments. We don't want any one of these Resolve effects to be too overpowering. Lastly, we're going to go ahead and we're going to add one more. We're going to add the Stylize effect. And guys, if you haven't discovered the Stylize effect yet, it'll kind of blow your mind. Add Stylize. See, what is this? There is so many interesting effects here. You just have to go have a play. Now, you might be like, what can this stained glass effect possibly have to do with making my image look better? Well, what you can do here is you can adjust the scale here. So I might adjust that to about 2 or 3. But you can blend it back in. So if I go ahead and blend it sort of 1.3-ish, 1.2-ish, again, looks a bit odd, but if you start pairing these effects with shapes, so if I go ahead and add a vignette, and might flip that, you can see that especially on the leaves, like look at what did we select here? Stained glass, okay? Look at that sort of interesting definition on the leaves that we start getting with that stained glass pattern, okay? But there's so many, like have a play with this feature, guys, it's really cool. So I'm gonna go ahead and create a new node. A little trick here for you guys, if you created a shape on one node, you can drag your alpha output to the next node, and it'll automatically use that same shape. So I'm gonna go ahead and now adjust my gamma down. Oh, not that much, okay. So that's the look. Not too simple, not too complicated. What does this look like when we start copying across to other shots in the sequence? Well, I'm going to go ahead and copy this grade with Alt-1. I'm going to go ahead and jump to this next shot, hit Control-1, which will copy the grade. And it comes across pretty okay. We'll have to obviously delete our face shape. We'll just play this across. The purples are looking kind of funky, so I might want to go into my saturation and sort of put the gamma slightly towards green. Sort of get some of those purpley tones out. I might want to jump in and desaturate a little bit of purple. But that holds up. We'll go to the next shot. Okay, we'll Control-1. Okay, you see the pattern looks a bit whack here, so we'll go ahead and we'll really tone this one down. We'll go into the blend, really tone it down so there's just a touch. Again, we might also want to rearrange our shape here. But it still looks pretty nice. Got to remove our face shape. Even though it's a fairly complex grade stack, it copies across pretty well to the rest of the sequence. Look, that's our dream forest look. If you find this stuff helpful and you like my content, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. I do have a Patreon as well if you want to go ahead and flick a couple of dollars my way. You can just do it for a month, buy me a cup of coffee. I appreciate you guys sticking around to the end, and I'll catch you guys in the next tutorial. Cheers.